Hello, everyone. This is Maryna Hritsyshyna, and I want to welcome you to the next episode of the podcast Clean Energy Talks. Today, we will talk about hydrogen certification with Flore de Durfor. Flore de Durfor is founder and managing director of Atmen, the green compliance platform for companies along the energy-intensive supply chain. Today, the Atmen software helps hydrogen and e-fuel developers and operators in 8 countries simplify all activities related to sustainability compliance and certification. In particular, before a site is operational, and at the same time, or once a site is operational also. Flore has been in the energy space before the past 10 years with two hats, one of an energy regulation expert and at the same time on a technology and data innovator. Thank you for your participation in this podcast. You're working under the automatization of certification processes for hydrogen. One of the reasons for automating this process is significant complexity of hydrogen certification. Based on your experience in this topic, why is hydrogen certification so complicated?
Thank you, Maryna, for the invitation and for this question. So why is hydrogen certification so complicated? I see three reasons. One is a practical reason, the other one is a regulatory reason, and the third one is a political reason. The practical reason is a fact which is that depending on the production path and conditions of its production, hydrogen can range from very clean to absolutely dirty. And devil is in the details. So I'll give you an example. One could think that, if instead of producing hydrogen the traditional way from fossil fuels, the hydrogen is produced from electricity and water by electrolysis, we're good. But we're not. There were studies from Fraunhofer Institute, from the IEA, that stated that electrolytic hydrogen actually can result in higher emissions than when produced from fossil fuels, including in Western countries like Germany, given Germany's grid mix. This is why it's not so straightforward, and this is why it's complicated. Second reason is a regulatory reason. As a regulatory nerd, that's fun for me, but for most people, it's not. Renewable hydrogen is a gas produced from electricity, often coupled with carbon, targeting the decarbonization of industry. And therefore, from a standards perspective, hydrogen regulation is a big salad that mixes the intricacies of electricity markets, natural gas markets, carbon markets, and regulation. And this is why it's so complex. It's also complex for a political reason. And this is because public and private bodies have diverging interests, in particular when it comes to questions like, what is the definition of green? Is nuclear green? They have diverging interests, as for example, between France and Germany, and these diverging interests result in heavy lobbying, heated debates, compromises that are often found in the intricacies in the way regulation is drafted, which makes things a bit more cryptic and harder to understand. So yeah, various reasons why it's complicated, and I think everyone would agree to that.
Yes, it's true. Given this complexity, starting a hydrogen production project can be very difficult. What are the main challenges for hydrogen producers on their way to certification?
What are the main challenges? So I think a first challenge is accessing the right guidance. Just take okay, you're a developer, you want to understand, okay, what the heck do I have to do? Just that is complex. There are several versions of regulations, there are leaks. You have to look for the different regulatory text in different places, but you also, so you have different regulatory complex sets that are located in different areas. For example, you have something for the infrastructure on one end, you have something on the delegated acts which belongs to RED 2, but you also have to look at RED 3, and you have to look at the Net Zero Industry Act, right? So information is scattered, and the first challenge is accessing the right guidance. Second challenge is understanding this guidance, understanding regulation. It's complex, we've said it. But I think the most important challenge is probably this one, which is to translate high-level regulation and certification scheme documentation into concrete requirements for day-to-day operations. Which kind of metering architecture should I favor? What should I keep in mind concretely when drafting my PPAs? How often do I need to access which meter readings? How concretely do I put my mass balancing principles into operations? Or, what happens when my metered readings aren't exactly the same as my DSO bill? This is the main challenge, as we see, of developers, is that they're quite good. They understand that this whole renewable fuels game is a regulatory-centric game. But devil is in the details, and certification scheme documentation and even worse regulation are often not in the details on what to do concretely, and this is the main challenge, I think.
Yes, I agree with you that it's quite difficult to understand regulation, especially application of this regulation to technical topics like certification of hydrogen. Considering these challenges, how can technology make certification easy?
I think technology, and to be precise, digitalization and automation can help in different ways. First way, they help save time and effort by ingesting operational data efficiently in a robust way, confronting it with regulatory logics, and then accurately, automatically executing the different tasks of certification. So issuing proofs of sustainability and then communicating with the registries, the national registries, but also the geo registries for power, for hydrogen, and then soon the UDB, right? So digital and automation can help in doing this accurately, fast. We see at Atmen that technology-enabled approach is actually a no-brainer. If you really look at numbers and you take an average 10 megawatt electrolysis sites, we're talking about minimum 70,000 operational data points that need to be ingested on a yearly basis, dozens of regulatory paragraphs, not even mentioning when a processing unit starts stacking different standards. So it's really, so first way that digitalization and automation can help is really in saving time and effort. Second thing is about risk. Automation can help de-risk green compliance and certification. Let's not forget that green certification is business critical for the thousands of hydrogen and e-fuels projects that are under development. Business cases work on the basis of green premiums. And green premiums must be backed by government-approved certificates. So a big threat is actually errors or approximations in the repetitive tasks of traceability, accounting, allocation. And a well-designed technology is simply often better performing than the human hand for these very repetitive tasks. Finally, I think automation helps by, and digitalization, to be more precise, helps by enabling optimization for certifiability and green premiums. And optimizations should start quite early in the life cycle of a project. Why? Because very quickly developing successful hydrogen and e-fuel projects comes down to optimally calibrating the supply chain to maximize the amount of output that fulfills certain decarbonization requirements at the least. So it helps with saving time and effort, with de-risking projects and de-risking operations, de-risking certification. And it helps with unlocking optimization potential.
So very exciting. So using software, we can de-risk and also optimize projects. I think it can be very useful for project developers. However, in the hydrogen sector, we can hear different approaches to preparation for certification. Some companies start with pre-certification. However, the key is the readiness of a project for certification. What does certification readiness mean for hydrogen producers?
Yes, certification readiness. So to me, it comes down to two things. First one, readiness means understanding the rules of the game, meaning building the expertise in-house and getting the people trained properly. So understanding the rules of the game, but also understanding how you can win at this game, especially in terms of energy procurement taking from the grid, when, how much, supply chain calibration, and data management. So certification readiness, in my view, is first a knowledge game and a strategic and tactical game. It's a business critical topic. And it means that being ready means having made sound make or buy decisions. So as a developer and future operator, you need to understand what you need to own and what you don't need to own. At Atmen, we're convinced that green certification is business critical, but non-core business for companies along the energy intensive supply chains. And that technology enablement is actually a no-brainer for the reasons we've mentioned before. So we built really an entire platform to make green certification accessible as a service. So we let producers outsource the complexity of compliance and certification to us so that they can really focus on their core business, producing safely, efficiently molecules that fulfill certain quality requirements. So yeah, make or buy decisions, I think, are part of certification readiness. And of course, as you know, I'm biased in that sense, but technology can help. I think not any technology can help. I think what's key is that the technology is on top of regulation and standards at COMA level. The technology needs to really integrate with the needs and requirements of incumbents, in particular auditors, also called certification bodies. So yeah, I don't think that technology solves everything. For example, a fancy blockchain, in my view, doesn't solve the problem. Needs to be well-behaved technology that is on top of regulatory requirements that can come in support of companies that seek certification readiness.
So if I correctly understand, so we need to have expertise in the topic of certification. At the same time, software solution can be helpful for company in order to be sure that they will be certified by their product. If we have a hydrogen project on the stage of development and construction, how can we start preparing for hydrogen certification?
Yes, so I think of two things. One thing is that as a developer, the first thing is to really understand the needs of your customers. So as we said, these e-fuels and hydrogen game is green premium centric, but the green premium depends on what the application is. The steel sector is driven by certain incentives, EU ETS, etc. The maritime sector is driven by RED 3 and penalties, and same as the aviation sector. And then the mobility sector is driven by other sets of incentive like this GHG quotas. So I think it all starts with working back from the needs of the off-takers in the end and the decarbonization targets that they have. What we're seeing is that many off-takers will demand different levels of carbon intensity, for example, and different stacks of certification standards. And this really needs to be the start. And then working back from these needs, then to translate these needs into a supply chain calibration, a way of procuring power, a way of fulfilling the different compliance requirements so that these contractual arrangements can be met. So I think that's the first thing. Then actually we define at Atmen a step-by-step process that we think is really meaningful, a roadmap. This is actually something we give out for free. So if you want, we could also put this as an attachment to the podcast, and we're giving this away for free. This is really just an RFNBO compliance checklist. So it just a roadmap that tells you in plain English with as little jargon as possible how to pre-work your certification, how to work towards your first RFNBO certificate, how to prepare your initial audit, who are the people you need to talk to, the schemes, the auditors. So yeah, we try to make this as understandable and transparent as possible, highlighting where we can help, of course, as Atmen, but also in a very neutral way. I think anybody can benefit from this list, so happy to share it freely. I don't think we need to make this game more complicated than it actually already is.
And it's very interesting and useful just to think about clients, because usually we think about targets, renew managing director, and so on. But you're completely right that first of all we need to understand who will buy this hydrogen, and certificate should be prepared for these clients. And the last question. Could you give some advice for those who plan hydrogen certification in their projects?
Yes, I think of many things. I will try to select just a few. Start early. Compliance and certification aren't just a list of check boxes. These are not hygiene factors and something you need to do once the rest is ready. It's a cross-cutting topic. It involves engineering, it should involve procurement, it should involve compliance people, business developers, talking to off-takers. So these compliance and certification topics are decisive, they are crucial to building and maintaining trust in your organization. And that's why these are dimensions that you really need to embed in the DNA of your organization. It's a dynamic process. And that's why tech is so fit for this topic, is that it's not a one-off. It's not something you do, okay, once I'm pre-certified, I'm good, I don't touch everything. It's a dynamic process. And you should be empowered to dynamically change and tweak your setup in a way that allows you to maximize the certifiable output at the least cost. So that's one advice. Start early with something that empowers you to stay dynamic. And second, choose the right partners. Partners that let you take control of the topic and de-risk it without cutting you out from what remains really a business critical topic for you. So it's not a topic where you should say, hey, I take a consultant and do the work for us. It's too important. You need to stay in control. De-risking certification doesn't mean do it all yourself, but it also doesn't mean outsource it, the entire topic and the practice and the theory to someone. So finding the right partners that are trusted, that are competent on the topic, that are nimble, that can adapt to your needs, I think this is very important from the start. And maybe the last thing, which is more tempered thing, last advice is take it as a game. There are rules, and you can win at this game. So put everything you can on your side so you can win at this game. And start early and choose the right partners.
Thanks a lot for so useful advices. And thank you for your participation in this podcast.
Thank you so much, Maryna, for your invitation. It's great to join forces in this complex game.
Thank you.